there is a certain kind of emptiness that arises after we get what we want. Let's say we spend some time, maybe a lot of time and effort, chasing after something we really want to obtain, to get, to achieve. And once we do get it, there is, of course, joy, happiness, excitement. But shortly after that, there is this emptiness that comes. Do you know what I mean? And somehow we get stuck on that initial feeling of excitement that we get after we obtain it. And there are two things we miss. Two things that we don't really register deeply within ourselves. And that's why we keep going back. We keep going back to try to do it again and again and again. Because we miss those 2 points, those 2 details. The first one is this emptiness. We don't really miss it. We see it. And that's exactly because we see it that as fast as possible, we try to go and get something else, to get that high again, to get that rush again. So this one is more or less obvious, even though maybe we don't really like to look at it, but it's kind of obvious. The other one is more difficult to notice. It is much more subtle. Okay, so when we have some very strong desire, we have a desire to obtain some result, to obtain some material possession, to achieve some experience, whatever it is. We have this very strong desire, and that drives us to do all kinds of things to try to get it. So this desire itself is very uncomfortable. It's a very uncomfortable state. If we look honestly to ourselves, it doesn't feel good. Of course it doesn't feel good. That's why we try to get rid of it by attaining what we want. We don't think about it like that. We think about it like, okay, I have this desire, and if I obtain this desire, I'll be happy. But that's not really what's happening. What's happening is I don't feel good because this desire is uncomfortable. I feel like something is missing. And because I feel something is missing, I have to get rid of this discomfort. And what feels obvious, okay, I will get rid of this discomfort by getting it. Desire is like a fever, you know? It's like a fever that doesn't leave us be at peace. Did you ever notice that? Desire is driving restlessness, is driving us to have to act, because otherwise I can't just be here at peace. So the other thing, and the really important one that I'm trying to get to is, so if we see that desire is actually uncomfortable, the moment we get what we want, there is a moment where all that accumulated, built up tension of that desire, it's just gone. It just disappears. And that's like, peace, joy. The joy we experience is not because we got it. Not fully, not really. The joy is the relief of the pressure, of the discomfort, of the tension, of this fever that we were having before, when we felt something was missing and we needed to have that. A good example for this is like somebody is in the beach or something like, if somebody is by the beach or by the lake on a very hot day. They're there baking in the sun, getting hotter and hotter. At some point it becomes really uncomfortable. And then they want to rush to the water to get into the cool, fresh water, to cool down. And when they get into the water, the water feels so good. The cold water feels so good. But if that person was feeling cold, then the cold water would not feel so good, now would it? The cold water only feels good because the person was uncomfortably hot. And for that reason, the moment they get into the water, it feels like bliss. But it is relative, you see. It's not real. It's not objectively real. And it's the same with desire and getting what we want. Once we really see this mechanism, working, it's like, wow, okay. It changes everything. In Dzogchen, we always say we don't need to get rid of desire. Desire is just natural energy manifesting in a way based on ignorance, based on this duality of subject and object. So that's not itself the problem. The problem is the grasping. Okay, but that aside, so that is true, of course, but once we see through this, sure, this energy arises of desire based on, ignorance, just to put it simply. No, we don't need to repress it. That's true. We don't need to suppress that. But once we see this mechanism in action, it becomes much easier not to get swept away by it, not to get fooled by it into thinking that, okay, I really need to get that to be happy and to really see what's happening, and instead try to relax. Of course, I'm not talking about like normal things, like everybody needs to take care of this body, or this body, this body needs to take care of this body. I guess that's better said, because we don't have to do anything really. And this is the reason why we get this emptiness, feeling of emptiness, of this deep nostalgic, depressed kind of state soon after we get what we want, right? Because we have all this fever. It's exhausting. It's exhausting. We get all this fever. And then finally we get it. And we have that moment of joy, which is the relief of being free from this missing something. But then the original feeling that we are missing something that originated desire before is still there, it's not resolved. So it starts to come back again. So we have like it's like a hangover actually of sorts. Really, it's like the down, there's the high and then there's the down. And so we have this mistaken idea, we get what we want, we get this high, which we confuse, as I just said, and then that passes and immediately we get pulled down and suddenly we are confronted again with this feeling of, I'm missing something. And now it becomes very obvious. And the mind very quickly jumps, what can I get to cover this up? What can I get to feel this high again? And another desire forms and we go again. around and around and around and around and around. See, the teachings of Atiyoga are called the great perfection because, or the great completion. Sometimes it's better said like that. Because at the level of the ground of reality, there is nothing missing. There is nothing inside, there is nothing outside. There is nothing separate from the ground of reality. All of this illusion of a separate self and a separate world, it's not real. At the level of the ground, there is no separation. And if there is no separation, if everything is of the same nature of the ground, and there is nothing outside the ground of reality, what is that? What is missing? Everything is complete, self-complete. Each moment is complete in itself. It is only the mind that projects that something is missing. But what is, and there is something missing, relatively speaking. Maybe I could say like that. What is missing is the recognition of what we really are. That is missing. But because we don't recognize what we really are, there is this sense of lack. And then all of this confusion that I just spoke about, all this engine just starts going. And there we go. So peace. Peace is happiness. Peace is joy. It's so simple, you know? It's so simple. If you just recognize what I just described in this video from the beginning, and really look at yourself, and start there, and then to look at what is the nature of this self, and understand that peace comes only through this inner liberation, inner release. That's peace. Peace doesn't depend on what's happening. Not really. So we look to discover ourselves, to find peace, to become peace. Peace comes from peace. Peace does not come from disturbance, from manipulation, from contrived actions. Peace comes from peace. And that peace is discovering my real nature. And allowing this life to express itself from that nature, instead of from this conditioned ego. I hope this helps.